He's a legend.
Remember how much KYLER was not good last year from an analytics perspective, right? The horizontal raid offense. Right? Like he wasn't really efficient at all. Them's just the facts, right? We just know. But wasn't efficient either here, and he was 8th QB as a rookie, and then 3rd and 9th overall in fantasy. Hashtag watch the games. I mean, I do, and that's why I have the take that I have. So all these plus numbers, right? Yards per attempt index. 100 is average. This is like weighted runs created plus. I love stats like these, right? It tells you what percent better than the average a quarterback is in the thing. So like yards per attempt, he's below average. We know that. He doesn't throw the ball past the line of scrimmage a lot. It's a lot of this. It's not a lot of this. We want more of this, right? Net yards per attempt, about average. Adjusted yards per attempt, just below average. Adjusted net yards, last year, slightly above average. Completion percentage, I mean, it's high, but he's not throwing the ball downfield, so it should be high. 12% higher than the league average, right? As inefficient a season as he had, and we know that when it comes to quarterback scoring in fantasy, efficiency is what fuels the machine and not volume, right? Now, if you're super efficient and you throw for a lot of attempts, you're going to score a lot of fantasy points, right? If you're a very efficient quarterback who attempts a lot of throws, you're going to score a lot of points. But he was not very efficient. He still threw for almost 4,000 yards. The reality is, he ran for 800 yards, and we talked about when you run it that many times, and his rush attempts fell greatly after that injury. They just stopped running him. He ran a lot before the injury. We can look at his game logs and show that he was running it a lot more before the injury and a lot less after the injury. He did have 11 touchdowns. He was second on the team in terms of carries inside the 5. Those also dipped massively after the injury. We can go to his game logs just so that we can take a quick look, right? Rushing. A lot of attempts. Injury, not a lot of attempts, right? Way less attempts following the injury than before the injury. Basically a touchdown on the ground every week except one, but he had 2 here to make up for it in week 9 against Buffalo. Massive amount of points, buoyed by this ridiculous rushing floor that he had based on the volume of rush attempts that he was getting, even though he was very inefficient throwing the ball, right? Like, not a lot of air yards per attempt, not a lot of touchdowns, high touchdown percentage. Like, this is absurd. 4.7. Considering what they added this offseason, drafting Rondale Moore, bringing in AJ Green, no matter what you think of AJ Green, right? The corpse of AJ Green, the zombie AJ Green. He's 47 years old. He's too old. He's dust, whatever. He's still a receiver who can do certain things. He has this very specific set of tools at this point in his career. They don't need him to get open 30 yards down the field. That's just not how they're going to deploy him. And he was being deployed that way in Cincinnati last year because they were a ridiculously pass-happy offense, partially because that's how they built that offense around Joe Burrow, and partly because they were behind all the goddamn time. So KYLER's going to have to throw the ball a little bit more downfield. And hopefully one more year of maturity for Andy Isabella, one more weapon in Rondale Moore that can stretch the field a little bit. Hopkins is amazing close to the line of scrimmage. they've got pass catchers, and the one thing that this offense needs is an abundance of pass catchers. You still got Kirk, you still got, there's enough there that they can actually just wheel out wide receivers that they need to let him get out there. Because the first year, his rookie year, they did not have enough talent depth at wide receiver on that roster to make the offense go the way it wants. But looking at his first 2 years, and then let's go compare to Josh Allen. Josh Allen's first 2 years. Yards per attempt index, below average. Net yards per attempt index, below average. Adjusted yards per attempt, below average. Adjusted net yards per attempt, below average. Below average on everything except interception percent. His completion percent was horrible. And Josh Allen took a massive leap last season. His efficiency was unpredictably greater from one season to the next. And like, there's players do tend to take a leap in their second year from their first, but typically it's not quarterbacks who take a massive leap, as Mike Clay will attest to, from their first year to their second. Yes, they added Diggs, but again, wide receiver depth and talent can do those things for a player. And Diggs is amazing. You guys know how I feel about him as a player, and he prefers the word soda over pop. He won me $1 million, all those sorts of things. But like, this is absurd. 6.5 touchdown percent after years of 3.1 and 4.3. What did KYLER do his first years? 3.7 and 4.7. Efficiency numbers wise, below average everywhere. KYLER Murray, first 2 years, pretty much below average everywhere except for the things that were fixed by him throwing the ball really close to the line of scrimmage. I don't think that it's out of the realm of possibility to think that KYLER Murray is still going to run the ball now that his, like, it's always the same thing, right? Oh, they hope to run the ball less with him. Well, they said the same thing about Josh Allen last year. We want to run the ball less with Josh Allen in 2020 than we did in 2019. Well, long story short, they freaking didn't, because he's good, and you're gonna do that. You're gonna do the things that make sense to help you win football games. And if you have Josh Allen, you're not gonna tell him, hey man, don't run the ball ever. You're still gonna run the ball with Josh Allen. So he ran the ball pretty much the same. So I'm expecting kind of a similar 8 to 10 rushes a game out of KYLER Murray, the pre-injury numbers that we showed in that game log. It's extremely possible to think that with the added depth and talent that they have at wide receiver, that he will challenge down the field a little bit more. And as horribly efficient, and he was horribly efficient, 3.7 touchdown percentage his rookie year, 4.7 touchdown percentage last year. Every single metric that they have versus the rest of the league, KYLER Murray was basically average, except for completion percentage, which it's really easy to be high completion percentage when you're throwing the ball behind the line of scrimmage. What if he takes a modest leap forward? Not quite the leap forward that Josh Allen took, right? To get 15 to 20% above the average. What if KYLER Murray is 110s across the board this year? As inefficient as KYLER Murray was last year, and again, efficiency is the thing that leads to quarterback scoring more than volume. KYLER Murray was the QB2 in fantasy last year. If his efficiency takes a leap forward due to all those factors, third year, added depth in terms of pass catchers and playmakers, hopefully utilizing Chase Edmonds a little bit more in the passing game, who's a weapon in his own right, and KYLER returning to running the ball as much as he did pre-shoulder injury than he was after shoulder injury, KYLER Murray could be in a situation where he could lap the field at quarterback. It's in his range of outcomes. It's not the only outcome possible. It's not. But it's certainly in the range of outcomes, because as good as Josh Allen was last year, and he was the QB1 last year in terms of fantasy, threw for 37 touchdowns, ran for what, 8? 9? Ran for 8 last year, 9 the year before. KYLER threw for 26. If KYLER throws 30 plus touchdowns this year, which is not a massive jump from 26 to 30 plus, it's very small increase in his touchdown percentage. And he runs the ball 10 times a game and is second on the team in terms of inside the 5 carries. He could break fantasy. And he might have a floor of like 400 fantasy points if he stays healthy for all 17 games. That's my Kyler Murray discussion at length that I didn't want to get into on the Underdog draft video, but that's it in its entirety using Josh Allen as a comp.
He's a legend.